Katie Morrison sat near the back of the shuttle and watched the alien landscape pass below. The other students chatted excitedly about the field trip ahead. She kept quiet as usual and listened to their conversations. Professor Zigton stood at the front of the shuttle. His reptilian scales gleamed under the interior lights. He was a Sorvax from the planet Thorn and had taught wilderness survival at Galactic Academy for 20 cycles. Students, today we visit Moon 7 of the Velther system, the professor announced. This is routine training for all Academy members. The jungle there is perfectly safe and monitored. Katie looked at the other students in her group. Rin was an insectoid. Valkyrie with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected rainbow colors. Lox came from an ocean world, and his blue skin needed constant moisture from a small device on his belt. Tara was a Skrill with feathers that changed colors based on her mood. Nev was a Lytheran whose crystalline body caught and refracted light in beautiful patterns. They all seemed relaxed and happy. Katie wished she could feel the same way, but something about this trip made her uncomfortable. Her instincts told her to stay alert. The shuttle began its descent through the atmosphere. Green jungle canopy stretched endlessly in all directions below them. Katie noticed there were no clearings or signs of civilization anywhere. Suddenly the shuttle shook violently. Alarms started blaring throughout the cabin. Professor Jeektin grabbed the wall to steady himself. Remain calm, he called out. We are experiencing technical difficulties. The shuttle shook again and dropped rapidly. Students screamed as they were thrown against their seats. Katie gripped her harness tightly and braced herself. The pilot fought to control the descent, but the shuttle kept falling. Trees rushed up to meet them. Katie saw the fear in her classmates' faces. The impact came hard and fast. Metal screeched as the shuttle tore through the jungle canopy. Branches smashed against the hull. Everything went dark for a moment when Katie opened her eyes. The shuttle had stopped moving. Emergency lights flickered weakly. She heard groaning and crying around her. Is everyone alive? Katie called out. Her voice sounded calm even though her heart was racing. I think so, Rin replied in a shaky voice. But Professor Giktin is hurt. Katie unbuckled her harness and moved to the front. The professor lay unconscious with a deep cut on his head. His breathing was shallow but steady. Tara's feathers had turned pale gray with fear. What do we do now? The communication system is destroyed. How will rescue find us? Katie checked the shuttle systems. Everything was either broken or offline. No communications. No beacon. No way to signal for help. We need to get out of this shuttle, Katie said. It might not be safe to stay inside. Lox's moisture device was cracked and leaking, but it is dangerous outside. We do not know what creatures live in this jungle. Katie found the emergency exit and forced it open. Humid air rushed in, carrying strange scents. The sounds of the jungle were loud and unfamiliar. Climbed out first and looked around. The shuttle had carved a path through the trees and now rested at an angle against a massive trunk. Vines and plants already seemed to be growing over the damaged hull. One by one, the students climbed out. They stood together in a small group and stared at the alien jungle around them. The trees here were enormous and reached toward a sky they could barely see through the canopy. Strange calls and sounds came from every direction. Everything was wet from recent rain. We should stay near the shuttle, Nev suggested. Rescue will come soon, and they will look for us here. Katie wasn't so sure. She had learned survival skills from her grandfather back on Earth. He had taught her that rescue might take days or even weeks. They needed to think about basics first. We need shelter, water, and food, Katie said. We cannot just wait and hope. Rin's antennae twitched nervously. The professor said this moon was safe. Rescue will find us by tomorrow. Katie looked at the damaged shuttle. Our beacon is not working. They do not know exactly where we crashed. This jungle is huge. Tara made a sound like a bird's distress call. But none of us know how to survive in wilderness. We are students, not explorers. Katie realized her classmates had never faced real danger before. Their home worlds were peaceful and civilized. Food came from stores or replicators. Danger was something that happened in history lessons. Earth had been very different. Katie had camped in mountains, learned to start fires, understood how to find water. Her grandfather said these skills kept their ancestors alive. I can help us survive. Katie offered, I know some things about living in wild places. The alien students looked at her with doubt. How could a young human know more than they did? They had studied at the academy for years. Let us just wait here. Locke said, rescue will come before we need to worry about food and water. Katie didn't argue. She knew they would understand soon enough as the sun began to set. The jungle changed. The temperature dropped quickly. New sounds emerged from the darkness. Glowing eyes appeared in the trees around them. The students huddled together near the shuttle. Fear replaced their earlier confidence. No rescue had come. Night in the jungle was terrifying. Professor Jiktin remained unconscious inside the shuttle. Katie checked on him but could do nothing more than make him comfortable. His injury needed proper medical care. The other students jumped at every sound. They had no light except the weak emergency glow from the shuttle. Shadows moved at the edge of their vision. Katie gathered some dry materials she found near the crash site. She arranged them carefully and used techniques her grandfather taught her. Within minutes, she had a small fire burning. The flames pushed back the darkness. The alien students stared at the fire with amazement. How did you do that? Rin asked. Without any technology or tools. Katie fed more fuel to the flames. This is something all Earth children learn. Fire keeps us warm and safe. She also built a simple shelter using branches and large leaves. It wasn't much, but it would keep rain off them. The alien students watched but didn't help. They seemed unable to understand what she was doing as night deepened. Katie kept the fire going. She stayed awake while the others tried to sleep. Their fear was obvious in every sound they made. Katie looked up at the unfamiliar stars through gaps in the canopy. She was far from home on a moon that wasn't supposed to be dangerous, but her instincts told her this was just the beginning. The jungle around them was alive with things that hunted and killed. She could feel it in the air. This was not a safe place for beings who had never known real wilderness. Katie added another branch to the fire and prepared herself for what was coming. Her classmates would learn soon enough what it meant to survive, and they would learn what being from Earth truly meant. Morning came slowly to the jungle. Katie had stayed awake most of the night keeping watch. The other students woke up tired and scared from bad dreams. Tara's feathers were still pale from stress. Has rescue come yet? Katie shook her head. She had been listening carefully, but heard no engines or search craft overhead. Only jungle sounds filled the airlocks. Checked his moisture device again. It was completely broken. Now his skin was already starting to look dry. I need water soon, he said quietly. Katie had been thinking about this problem. I can find water, she told them, but we need to search carefully. Nev's crystalline body reflected the morning light. How will you find water in this wilderness? We have no sensors or equipment. Katie pointed to marks she had noticed on nearby trees. Animals made these tracks. They lead somewhere. Animals always know where water is. The concept seemed strange to her classmates. They were used to getting everything from technology. Reading nature signs was completely foreign to them. Katie led them through the jungle following the animal paths. She moved carefully and watched for dangers. The alien students struggled to keep up. Every sound made them jump. After an hour of walking, Katie found a stream. Clear water flowed over smooth rocks. It looked beautiful and safe. Rin moved toward the water eagerly. Katie grabbed his arm. Wait, she said. We need to make it safe first. But it looks clean, Tara argued. Why can we not? Drink. Katie gathered rocks and began building a simple filter. Water can carry sickness, even if it looks pure. On Earth, we learned this as children. She showed them how to filter the water through layers of sand, charcoal from their fire, and clean cloth torn from her uniform. Then she boiled water in containers they had salvaged from the shuttle. The alien students watched in fascination. These simple techniques had never been part of their education. Their worlds had always provided clean water with no effort. They drank carefully and felt better. But now another problem became clear. They were getting hungry. Katie found some fruits and plants near the stream. She tested them carefully using methods her grandfather taught her. Some were safe to eat. She gave small amounts to each student, but the alien students struggled with the raw food. Their digestive systems were not adapted for unprocessed plants. Rin ate a small berry and immediately felt sick. "I cannot eat these things," he said weakly. "My species needs prepared food." The same was true for the others. Evolution on gentle worlds had made their bodies dependent on processed nutrition. Raw jungle food was too harsh for them by the second day. Their situation was getting worse. The alien students were weak and hungry. Katie tried to find softer foods, but nothing worked well enough. She checked on Professor Zeekton regularly. He woke up briefly and tried to speak, but his injury kept him confused and weak. He could not help them. That evening, Katie sat by the fire and thought hard. Her classmates were starving. Plant food would not sustain them. They needed protein and fat. They needed meat. Katie had hunted before back on Earth. Her grandfather took her deer hunting. When she was 12, she remembered the lessons about tracking, patience, and clean kills. But hunting here would be different. She had no rifle or bow, just a knife from the emergency kit. She would need to make weapons from what the jungle provided. "What are you thinking about?" Rin asked. He noticed Katie staring into the fire with intense focus. "I need to hunt," Katie said simply. The alien students looked shocked. Tara's feathers turned bright yellow with alarm. "Hunt? What do you mean?" "I mean find an animal and kill it for food," Katie explained. "It is the only way to get the nutrition you need." Lox made a sound of distress. "But that is barbaric. We are civilized beings. We do not kill and eat animals." Katie understood their reaction. Most spacefaring species had moved past hunting thousands of years ago. They grew food in laboratories or synthesized it from basic elements. The idea of killing to eat seemed primitive and cruel to them. "I know it seems wrong," Katie said, "but you are starving. Your bodies cannot process the plants here. Meat is what you need to survive." Nev's crystal body dimmed. "Even if what you say is true, how could you possibly hunt? You have no weapons or technology. You are just a student like us." Katie stood up and walked to the edge of their camp. She found a straight branch and began shaping it with her knife. Her hands worked with practiced confidence. "Earth taught humans to hunt long before we had technology," she said while working. "My ancestors killed animals much larger than themselves. They used tools like this." She held up the branch she had been shaping. It was now a simple spear with a sharpened point, not sophisticated but deadly and skilled. Hands, the alien students stared at the weapon. Then they stared at Katie. For the first time, they seemed to really see her. Not as a classmate, but as something different. "You really know how to use that?" Rin asked quietly. Katie tested the spear's balance. "Yes," she answered. "All humans can hunt if they need to. Earth made sure of that." Tara's voice was small and frightened. "What kind of world makes children into hunters?" Katie looked at her friend with sad eyes. "A hard world," she said. "A world that killed anyone who could not adapt. A world where being weak meant dying." The alien students were silent. They were beginning to understand something important. Earth was not like their gentle home worlds Earth had forged. Humanity in fire and blood. "I will go hunting tomorrow at dawn," Katie announced. "I will bring back food. You need to trust me." Locke spoke up nervously. "What if you get hurt or lost? We cannot survive without you." Katie appreciated his concern. "I will be careful," she promised. "I have done this before." "Just Keep the fire going and stay together." That night, Katie prepared for the hunt. She made several more spears and tested each one. She studied the animal tracks around their camp. She planned her approach. The alien students watched her preparations. With growing unease, they saw her transform from a quiet classmate into something focused and dangerous. Her movements became precise and purposeful. Her eyes scanned the jungle with predatory awareness and finally voiced what they were all thinking. "Katie, you are scaring us a little. You seem very different now." Katie paused in her work. She looked at her friends and saw the fear in their expressions. "I am sorry," she said gently, "but this is what humans become when survival is necessary. We are kind and friendly when things are safe, but when danger comes, we remember what we really are." "And what is that?" Nev asked. Katie looked out into the dark jungle. "Predators." She answered quietly. "Earth's most successful predators." The word hung in the air between them. The alien students had known humans were from a dangerous world, but knowing facts and understanding reality were different things. As Katie lay down to rest before the hunt, she thought about home. She missed Earth, familiar forests. She missed her family. But the skills they gave her were keeping everyone alive. The jungle around them was full of dangers. But Katie Morrison had been raised by a world that was even more dangerous, and tomorrow she would prove it. The fire crackled softly as the students tried to sleep above them. Through the canopy, alien stars looked down. Katie closed her eyes and dreamed of the hunt to come. Katie woke before sunrise while the jungle was still dark. She gathered her spears and checked each weapon carefully. The alien students were still sleeping by the dying fire. She moved quietly and did not wake them. They would only worry and try to stop her. This was something she had to do alone. The jungle came alive with sound as dawn approached. Birds called from the canopy above. Insects buzzed in complex rhythms. Larger things moved through the undergrowth, making the leaves rustle. Katie followed the animal trails she had studied the day before. Her feet moved silently over the damp ground. Years of practice had taught her how to walk without making noise. She found fresh tracks near a muddy area. Something large had passed through. Recently, the prints looked similar to a wild pig from Earth, but bigger, much bigger. Katie knelt and examined the tracks closely. She could tell the animal was heavy and moved on four legs. The depth of the prints suggested it weighed at least 200 pounds, maybe more. This was dangerous prey, but her friends were starving. She had no choice. Katie followed the trail deeper into the jungle. She moved slowly and stopped often to listen. Hunting required patience above all else. Rush in foolishly, and you would fail or get hurt. The tracks led to a game trail that many animals used. Katie could see where different creatures had walked. Some prints were fresh while others were days old. She found a good spot near a stream where the trail crossed. Animals would come here to drink. She settled into position behind a fallen log and waited. Hunting was mostly waiting. Her grandfather had taught her this truth. You could track for hours and never see your prey, or you might wait in one spot all day with no result. But Katie had something most hunters lacked. She had a human's endurance. Humans could wait longer than almost any other predator. They could pursue prey for days if necessary. They never gave up. Hours passed slowly. The sun climbed higher and the jungle grew hot. Sweat ran down Katie's face, but she did not move. Her muscles stayed relaxed and ready. Small animals came to the stream to drink. Katie let them pass. She needed something bigger, something with enough meat to feed everyone. Near midday, she heard heavy footsteps approaching. Katie's heart began to beat faster, but she controlled her breathing. Stay calm. Stay focused. A creature emerged from the jungle and approached the water. It looked like a wild boar, but was covered in thick scales instead of fur. Long tusks curved from its mouth. Its eyes were small and mean. This was a threat. Katie had seen pictures in the Academy database. They were aggressive and territorial. Hunting one would be extremely dangerous. The thrak sniffed the air suspiciously. It seemed to sense something wrong. Katie remained absolutely still. The creature moved closer to the water. Its guard was lowering. This was her chance. Katie stood up smoothly and threw her first spear. The weapon flew straight and struck the Thrak in the shoulder. The creature screamed in pain and rage, but the spear did not kill it. The Thrak's scales were tougher than Katie expected. Her weapon had wounded it, but not fatally. The creature spun around and spotted Katie. Its eyes filled with fury. It charged directly at her. Katie grabbed her second spear and stood her ground. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but running from a charging animal was usually fatal. She had to face it at the last moment. Katie dodged to the side and thrust her spear. The point caught the Thrak in its neck, but the creature's momentum carried it forward. Katie was knocked down hard. The breath left her lungs. The Thrak stumbled past her and crashed into the undergrowth. She forced herself to get up. Pain shot through her side where she had hit the ground. But she could not stop. Now the Thrak was still alive and extremely angry. It turned and prepared to charge again. Blood ran from its wounds, but it was far from finished. Katie picked up a fallen branch to use as a club. She had lost both spears. Now she had only improvised weapons and her determination. The Thrak charged again. Katie met it head on. She dodged the tusks and brought the branch down hard on the creature's head. The wood cracked, but so did something in the animal's skull. They fought in a brutal struggle. Katie used every advantage she had. Speed, flexibility, intelligence. The Thrak had raw strength and natural weapons. Katie got her hands on the first spear she had thrown. She yanked it free and drove it deeper. The Thrak bellowed and tried to shake her off. She held on with desperate strength. Her muscles burned with exhaustion. Cuts and bruises covered her arms and legs. But Katie refused to let go. Humans were persistence hunters. They did not give up. They never gave up. Finally, the Thrak began to weaken. Its movements slowed. Blood loss was taking its toll. Katie drove her weapon one final time. The creature shuddered and fell. It took several more minutes to die. Katie collapsed next to her kill. Her whole body shook with exhaustion and adrenaline. She had won, but the cost had been high. She looked at herself and saw she was covered in mud, blood, and scratches. Her uniform was torn in several places. One arm had a deep cut that would need bandaging, but she had done it. She had brought down a dangerous predator with primitive weapons, just like her ancestors had done thousands of years ago on Earth. After catching her breath, Katie began the hard work of field dressing the Thrak. She had to remove the internal organs and prepare the meat for transport. This part was messy and difficult, but necessary. Her knife was small for such a large animal. The work took over an hour. But Katie had helped her grandfather prepare deer before. She knew what to do. She could not carry the entire Thrak back to camp. It was far too heavy. So she cut away the best portions of meat and loaded them into a makeshift carrier she made from vines in the creature's own hide. The sun was getting low by the time she finished. Katie had been gone all day. Her friends would be worried. She began the long walk back to camp. The meat was heavy and awkward to carry. Every step required effort. Her injuries throbbed with pain. But Katie kept moving. Humans were built for this, walking long distances while carrying heavy loads. It was what her species did best. As the sun set, Katie finally saw the glow of the campfire ahead. She could hear her friends talking nervously. They sounded scared. She stepped into the firelight, dragging her kill behind her. The alien students turned and stared. Their eyes went wide with shock. Katie stood before them, covered in dried blood and jungle mud. Scratches and cuts marked her skin. Behind her was more meat than any of them had ever seen killed in person. Tara made a small sound and her feathers went pure white. She actually fainted and fell over and rushed to help Tara, but kept staring at Katie. "What happened to you?" he whispered. Katie looked down at herself. She knew she must look frightening, like something from their nightmares. "I went hunting," she said simply. "I brought dinner." Lox's voice shook. "You killed that thing alone, with just those simple spears?" Katie nodded. She was too tired to explain properly. "We need to cook it now before it spoils," she said. Can someone help me prepare the fire? Nev moved forward slowly. His crystal body was dim with shock. Katie, you are injured. You need medical attention. Katie waved away his concern. I am fine. These are just scratches. Food is more important right now. She showed them how to cook the meat properly over the fire, how to tell when it was done, which parts were most nutritious. The alien students helped, but they moved like they were in a dream. They kept looking at Katie with something, like fear, or maybe it was respect, or maybe both as the meat cooked. The smell filled the camp. Despite their shock, the students' stomachs growled with hunger. They had not eaten proper food in days. Katie cut portions for everyone. Eat slowly, she advised. Your stomachs are not used to this. They ate carefully, and gradually strength returned to their bodies. Real nutrition after days of starvation. It tasted strange to them, but their bodies desperately needed it as they ate. They began asking questions about Earth, about what kind of world produced people who could do what Katie had done. And Katie, exhausted and hurting, began to tell them the truth about home. The alien students ate in silence at first. The meat was tough and gamey, but it gave them energy they desperately needed. Color returned to Lox's skin. Tara's feathers brightened slightly. Katie sat away from the fire and cleaned her wounds. She tore strips from her uniform to make bandages. The cuts stung, but none were serious enough to worry about. Rin watched her work. Does it hurt? He asked. Yes, Katie answered honestly. But pain is just information. It tells me what needs attention. Then I deal with it and move on. Nev moved closer to her. On my world, we have advanced medical facilities for even minor injuries. The idea of just bandaging wounds and continuing seems cruel. Katie tied off a bandage on her arm. Earth did not give us a choice. She said, you learned to handle pain, or you did not survive long enough to have children. So humans who could push through pain passed on their genes. Now all of us can endure more than most species think possible. Lox finished his portion of meat already. He looked healthier than he had in days. Katie, can I ask you something? Sure, she replied. How old were you when you first hunted an animal? Katie thought back to her childhood. I was 12 when my grandfather took me deer hunting. But I had been learning the skills since I was about 6. Tracking, understanding animal behavior, using weapons safely. Tara's voice was quiet. 6 Earth years old. That is when children on my world begin basic education, learning colors and shapes, not how to kill. Katie understood their shock. Different worlds, different needs, she said. Earth required different preparation. She added more wood to the fire and arranged the remaining meat to preserve it. The alien students watched her efficient movements. Everything she did had purpose and skill behind it. Tell us about Earth, Rin requested. We have read the Academy files, but they seem incomplete now. What is your home world really like? Katie settled back and looked into the fire. Where should she even begin? How could she make them understand? Earth has higher gravity than most inhabited worlds. She started. So humans are stronger than we look. Our bones are denser. Our muscles more powerful. We learned that in xenobiology class, Nev said. But numbers on a screen do not convey what it actually means. Katie picked up a rock the size of her fist. This would feel light to me, but heavy to most of you. I grew up climbing in that gravity, playing sports in it, fighting against it every day. She tossed the rock to Rin. He caught it, and his arms dipped from the unexpected weight. Earth also has dangerous weather. Katie continued. Hurricanes with winds over 300 kilometers per hour. Tornadoes that destroy entire towns. Floods, droughts, blizzards, heat waves. Lox looked disturbed. How do you survive such conditions? We build strong shelters. Katie said. We learn to read weather signs. We prepare emergency supplies. And sometimes, people still die because nature is more powerful than any of us. Tara wrapped her wings around herself. Your world sounds terrifying. Katie nodded slowly. It can be, she admitted, but it is also beautiful. The same storms that destroy also bring life-giving rain. The harsh winters kill pests and make spring more precious. Earth is hard, but it is home. What about the animals? Nev asked. What kind of creatures share your world? Katie's expression grew serious. Earth has animals that hunt humans. Large cats that can kill with one bite to the neck. Bears that weigh over half a ton. Crocodiles that drag prey underwater. Sharks. Wolves. Venomous snakes and spiders. Even some plants are deadly to touch. The alien student stared at her in horror. But humans are the apex predators. Katie continued. We hunted many large animals to extinction, not because we wanted to, but because we were so good at killing. We had to create laws to protect species from ourselves. Rin's antennae drooped. I am beginning to understand why the galaxy was afraid when humans reached space. Katie looked at her friend. Humans are not monsters, she said firmly. We can be gentle and kind. We create art and music. We care for our elderly and protect our weak. But yes, we are also dangerous when we need to be. Is every human like you? Lox asked. Can all of you hunt and fight and endure like this? Katie considered the question. Most humans could do what I did with some training, she said. Some would be better at it, some worse. But the basic capability is in all of us. My younger brother is only 10, and he can start fires, build shelters, and track small animals. These are just normal skills where I come from. Tara made a sound of disbelief. A child of 10 cycles doing these things. Earth children have to grow up fast. Katie explained. The world does not care if you are young. A storm will kill a child as easily as an adult. A predator does not care about your age. So we teach our young to be capable early. The alien students fell silent. They were processing information that challenged everything they thought they knew. Professor Zeekton stirred inside the shuttle. He had been unconscious for most of their ordeal. Now he woke and called out weakly. Katie brought him water and some cooked meat. Professor, try to eat something, she said gently. You need strength. His reptilian eyes focused on her. Student Morrison. He rasped. What happened? Katie explained their situation briefly. The crash. The days of survival. Her hunting expedition. The professor listened with growing amazement. You did all this? He asked. You kept everyone alive. I did what was necessary, Katie replied. Professor Zeekton looked past her at the other students. They were healthy and safe, thanks to one human's determination. I have taught survival courses for 20 cycles, he said slowly. I thought I understood wilderness skills, but I have never seen anything like what you describe. Katie helped him sit up more comfortably. You taught survival for civilized worlds, she said. Earth is not civilized in that way. It is wild down to its core. The professor nodded weakly. I see that now. When we return to the academy, things will have to change. Over the next 2 days, Katie continued to care for everyone. She hunted smaller game that was easier to catch. She improved their shelter and found medicinal plants that helped heal injuries. She taught the alien students basic skills, though most of them struggled. Rin learned to help tend the fire. Lox became good at gathering safe plants. Tara could identify bird calls that warned of danger. Nev discovered he could use his crystalline body to reflect sunlight for signals. They were learning, but Katie could see the difference. These skills did not come naturally to them. Their species had evolved on gentle worlds. Their instincts were for cooperation and peace, not survival struggles. Katie did not judge them for this. Their way was not wrong. It was just different, but she also knew that the galaxy was a big place. Not all worlds were safe. Not all species were friendly, maybe. It was good that humans had joined the galactic community. Someone needed to remember that survival sometimes required hardness. One evening, as they sat around the fire, Nav asked Katie a question. Do you wish you were not from Earth? Do you wish you came from an easier world? Katie looked up at the stars visible through gaps in the canopy. She thought about Earth's blue oceans and green forests. She thought about her family and friends back home. She thought about the price humanity paid for their strength. No, she said finally, Earth made me who I am. It made all humans who we are. We paid a high cost for our abilities, but they are ours. I would not trade that away. Rin spoke up. Even though your world is so hard. Even though it forces children to learn how to kill. Katie smiled sadly. Earth taught us to survive. She said, but it also taught us to value life. When you grow up surrounded by death, you learn how precious living is. When you have to work hard for everything, you appreciate what you have. When you face real danger, you understand true courage. Earth gave us strength through suffering. She continued, but it also gave us compassion through understanding suffering. We are dangerous. Yes, but we are also fiercely protective of those we care about. We fight hard because we love hard. The alien students listened and began to understand Earth had not created monsters. It had created survivors who remembered what it cost to survive, and that made all the difference. On the seventh day in the jungle, Katie heard engines in the sky. She immediately grabbed a reflective piece of metal from the shuttle wreckage. The other students looked up with hope and excitement. They found us, Tara cried out. Her feathers turned bright yellow with joy. Katie climbed to the highest point she could safely reach. She angled the metal to catch sunlight and flashed signals toward the sound. The academy had taught all students basic light signal codes. The engine sounds grew louder. A search ship appeared above the canopy. It circled their position and began descending within an hour. A rescue team arrived at their camp. The team leader was a Dorvac named Commander Krell. He had 4 arms and skin like gray stone commander. Krell looked around the camp with surprise. He saw the well-built shelter, the organized food storage, the healthy students. We expected to find you in desperate condition, he said. The shuttle's emergency beacon never activated. We have been searching this entire region, Professor Zeekton. Now much recovered thanks to Katie's care. Step forward. We survived because of Student Morrison, he said. She kept us all alive. The commander looked at Katie. She stood there still wearing her torn and stained uniform. Her arms showed fading bruises and healing cuts. You are the human student, Krell observed. What exactly did you do? Katie shrugged. I hunted for food, found water, built shelter. Basic survival stuff. Rin spoke up quickly. She killed a Thrak with handmade spears. Alone, she saved all of us, the rescue team members. Exchanged glances. Thraks were known to be dangerous predators. The idea of a student killing one with primitive weapons seemed impossible. I would like to see this kill, Commander Krell said. Katie led them to where she had stored the remaining Thrak meat. She had smoked it to preserve it over the past days. The team examined the meat and the hide. One of the medics, a Valkyrie like Rin, studied the hide closely. These are spear wounds, she confirmed. Clean strikes from someone who knew what they were doing. Commander Krell looked at Katie with new respect. Your instructors mentioned you were from Earth. I did not realize what that truly meant until now. The rescue team began preparing everyone for transport. Medical staff checked each student. The alien students were pronounced healthy despite their ordeal. Katie's injuries were noted, but considered minor as they loaded onto the rescue ship. Locke spoke to the commander. Sir, I need to report something. The academy files on this moon were incorrect. This was not a safe training location. There were dangerous predators and difficult conditions. Commander Krell nodded seriously. We discovered that after you crashed, this moon was misclassified in our database. An investigation is already underway. You should not have been brought here, Nev added quietly. Without Katie, we all would have died. The flight back to Galactic Academy took several hours. Katie sat with her friends and watched the jungle disappear below. She felt relieved to leave, but also strangely sad. The jungle had been hard, but it had also felt familiar in a way when they arrived at the academy. News of their survival had already spread. Students gathered to see them return. Whispers followed Katie as she walked through the halls over the next few days. The story grew. Each telling made it sound more dramatic. Some versions were not even close to what really happened. But the core truth remained: a human student had kept her alien classmates alive in deadly wilderness. She had hunted and killed to feed them. She had used skills that seemed primitive, yet were undeniably effective. Academy administration held meetings about the incident. Should survival training be changed? Should students from Deathworlds be allowed on such trips? What did this reveal about different species' capabilities? Katie tried to avoid attention and return to normal classes, but everything had changed. Students she did not know would point at her in hallways. Some looked at her with admiration, others with fear. One day, Katie's xenobiology professor asked her to speak to the class. Tell them about Earth. The professor requested, help them understand. Katie stood in front of dozens of alien students. They stared at her with curious and nervous expressions. Earth is a Class 12 Deathworld, she began. Most of you come from Class 3 or Class 4 worlds. The difference is bigger than you probably understand. She showed images of Earth on the display screen. Hurricanes swirling over oceans, lightning storms illuminating dark skies, volcanoes erupting with rivers of lava, predators hunting prey in brutal efficiency. This is normal weather on Earth, Katie explained. This is the nature we live with every day. Student raised a tentacle-like appendage. How did your species survive long enough to develop intelligence in such conditions? Katie smiled slightly. We almost did not, she admitted. Humans nearly went extinct several times in our early history, but we had one advantage. We never gave up, she explained. Human persistence hunting. How ancient humans would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. How human endurance exceeded almost every other animal on Earth. She explained human adaptability. How humans learned to live in frozen Arctic regions and scorching deserts. How they crossed vast oceans in wooden boats. How they climbed the highest mountains just to prove they could. Earth taught us that survival requires sacrifice. Katie said, it requires pushing past pain and fear. It requires doing hard things when you want to give up. So that is what humans do. We endure. The class sat in silence. Many were rethinking everything they knew about the quiet human girl after class. Katie's communication device showed a message. It was from her family back on Earth. They had heard about the crash and were relieved she was safe. Mother wrote, we knew you would be okay. You are your grandfather's granddaughter. He would be proud. Katie felt tears in her eyes reading those words. Her grandfather had passed away 2 years ago, but his lessons had kept her alive. His training had saved her friends. She wrote back, I used everything he taught me. I wish he could know. It mattered. That evening, Katie met with Ren, Lox, Tara, and Nev. They sat together in the Academy's garden. The peaceful surroundings felt strange after the jungle. Things are going to be different now, Rin said. Everyone knows what you did. How you saved us. Katie shook her head. I just did what any human would do. That is exactly what frightens them. Nev replied, the idea that any human could do what you did. That these skills are normal for your species. Tara's feathers were calm blue. I am grateful, she said, but I am also unsettled. I thought I understood what Deathworld meant. Now, I know I had no idea. Lox spoke thoughtfully. The galaxy has been at peace for so long. Most species have forgotten what it means to truly struggle. Humans remember. That makes them valuable and dangerous. Katie understood their mixed feelings. Humans do not want to be feared. She said, we want to be friends and partners. But yes, we are different. Earth made us different. Message came through on the Academy's public channel. The Galactic Council wanted to meet with Katie. They had questions about human capabilities. They wanted to discuss establishing survival training programs. They want you to teach others. Rin said with surprise. Katie read the message carefully. The council was offering her a position, creating wilderness survival courses. They wanted to learn from Earth's harsh lessons. Will you accept? Nev asked Katie. Thought about it. She thought about her friends who nearly died because they did not know basic survival. She thought about other students who might face similar dangers. Yes. She decided, if my experiences can help others survive, then the struggle was worth it. Over the following months, Katie worked with Academy staff to develop new training programs. She taught students from gentle worlds how to think about survival differently. She showed them that technology could fail, that sometimes the old ways were the most reliable. Not every student could master the skills. Their bodies and minds were not shaped by harsh necessity like humans were, but they learned valuable lessons about preparedness and resilience. Katie also became a bridge between humanity and the galactic community. She helped others understand that Earth's harshness was not a curse. It was a forge that shaped a unique and valuable people, the alien. Students who survived the jungle with her remained close friends. They had shared an experience that bonded them forever. They had seen the true face of a Deathworld human, and they had learned to respect the price such strength required one night. Katie stood on an academy balcony, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, her beautiful, terrible, beloved home world. She missed the forests and mountains. She missed her family, but she was exactly where she needed to be. Earth had given her skills that saved lives. Now she could share those skills with the galaxy. She could help others understand that survival was not about being fearless. It was about being afraid and doing what was necessary anyway. Katie Morrison smiled as she looked at the stars. She was young, but she carried the wisdom of a world that taught through hardship. She was small, but she possessed the strength of a species that never surrendered. She was alone here among aliens, but she represented all of humanity, and that was exactly what Earth had prepared her to be. Survivor, a teacher, a reminder that the gentlest person could be the most dangerous when protecting those they loved. That was the gift and burden of being human. That was the legacy of Earth, and Katie would carry it with pride for the rest of her days among the stars.